Most women aren't failing because they don't want sobriety bad enough. They're failing because they're trying to remove the alcohol without understanding why they need it. Welcome to Sobriety Snippets for Women Over 40, where we elevate our mindset and trade hangovers for higher consciousness, one powerful snippet at a time. I'm Becca Jacobson. Welcome to Wednesday in Snippet Land. Super thrilled to have you with me today. Big day here. I'm going to connect with you now and again later on. That's right. Later on today, 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to teach a masterclass called How to Quit Drinking for the Last Time. That's right. I know you've tried many times before. You're exhausted. Let's talk this over. What is going on and how can we finally change this cycle that is so unbelievably exhausting? Not to mention emotionally draining, not to mention completely disheartening, and not to mention totally destructive to our concept of ourselves. Gals, we got to talk about this. I tried to figure it out one time. How many times have I tried to quit drinking? But there's no exaggeration to say that I was trying to give up alcohol for over 30 years. I don't just say that. It isn't like I drank through my 20s all happy-go-lucky. I wanted to quit in my 20s. It would probably be safe to say before I was 20, because the first drink I ever had, it was a problem. And I could feel it. I knew it. I knew I don't drink like other people. There's a problem here. I wanted to quit in my 30s. I wanted to quit in my 40s. That's 30 years right there. It's easy to say I must have tried 1,000 times. And by tried, I mean just simply even everything from seeking help and going to meetings or whatever, getting counselors, whatever it was, all the way down to just waking up in the morning and saying, oh my God, today I'm not going to drink. But for me, when I said that those might have been the words coming out top of my consciousness, maybe even out of my mouth. Oh my God, I don't want to drink today. But in my heart, inside, the thought was, I'm doomed. I know that by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm going to be drinking. I didn't believe it, in other words, because I had failed so many times. Listen, gals, we're not crazy. We look at the evidence in front of us and we realize, well, much as I'd really like to not drink this weekend, I suspect I will. We just don't want to say that out loud because it sounds like we're giving up. So we say, okay, no, I'm not going to drink, right? And we hope for the best because we don't want to walk around saying, screw it, I might as well get drunk. I'm going to fail again anyway, right? That ain't going to work, is it? But here's the thing, gals. We keep trying the same stuff. Not always. I got that. I understand that. As I just pointed out, I would try all sorts of things. I was a doctor, I had counselor, drug and alcohol counselor, therapist, meditation, 12-step meetings, and the list goes on and on. So I didn't just try the same thing over and over, but I had a limited number of tools in the old toolbox. And the truth of the matter is, I didn't know where else to look. What else is there? My doctor didn't know where else to look. No therapist knew where else to look. Everywhere I looked, it was the same answer, and it wasn't working for me. And I thought, I don't understand what's happening here. I'm being advised, go to meetings. That was the biggest advice I heard. Now I'm going back here to the 90s, right? There was nothing online. And so what else was there? Not much. I also went to other types of meetings. There were other groups that started up later on that weren't 12-step programs. Tried those. I tried it. Everything that I was advised to try, I tried. So it isn't like you haven't tried. I understand that. But gals, here's the truth. Even with all those different things that we've tried, and you probably have tried even more than me because there's more available now, all of those things are trying to solve the problem at the same level it was created. Let me say that again. It's all trying to solve the problem at the same level it was created. And that will never work. Never. We try white knuckling, bargaining, moderation attempts. We try starting on Monday, controlling our behavior without understanding our emotions. The thing is, drinking isn't random. It serves a purpose. We are drinking for a reason, and it's a good one. By that, I mean it works. Alcohol works. It does what we want it to do. The problem is it does a lot more than that, doesn't it? And then on top of it, let's talk about our emotions. The women I work with aren't weak. They're simply emotionally overloaded. And when you're emotionally overloaded, you don't need a strategy. You need relief. And that's exactly what alcohol gives us. Instant relief. How do you compete with that? Somebody comes along and says, spend 3 months with me. You'll feel better. It's like, oh, well, I could just pour a glass of wine. Like, which one are you going to choose? For me, it's like, if the next person that tells me to breathe, I'm going to kill them. I'm just going to kill them because there's no comparison between a shot of vodka and a deep breath. I mean, yeah, it's so painful. That's where I got to, is like, no, there's got to be something else happening here. And the emotions are huge part of this. And unless we learn what to do with our emotions, we'll never, ever change this cycle. Alcohol is reward, it's escape, it's numbing, it's silence, it's relief, it's finally shutting off that chatter in the mind. And we suppress so much for so long that eventually we need something to turn the volume down. And alcohol serves that beautifully. But as I've said before, and I will say it again, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Something different has to be tried. At some point, we have to admit that trying harder won't change anything. If a strategy hasn't worked in 10 years, it's probably not the strategy for you, or 5, or 1. Nothing changes until something actually changes. Think about that. Nothing changes until something actually changes. And what do we need to change? Well, it's certainly about emotions, but not just emotions. It's about routine, it's about environment, it's about relationships. We have to look at the whole package. We can't just decide, oh, I know, I'll learn how to breathe through my emotions. Well, that's helpful, but there's more to your drinking than that, especially after all these years. But here's what I've learned in my 7 years in this journey. And I want you to know I've learned a lot, and it wasn't the easy way. It wasn't like I suddenly in 2019 ran into some solution. I didn't. I couldn't find the right path, and I kept looking and looking and looking. The solution that I use, the strategies that I teach, the help that I give is what I've learned over the last 8 years through my own personal experience, combined with working with other women, combined with the education that I got at the beginning. And I'll be honest with you, the education was the least helpful. Of course, before starting this journey, I decided, well, I'd better get educated. Who am I to coach? Who am I to mentor women? And so I went and got certified as a life coach and then specialized in sobriety. And I fully expected at the end of that training to be not only qualified, but to have some insights that I'd never had before. I was actually really excited. I'm like, what are they going to teach me about helping people in sobriety that I don't know, because it had been my journey? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to finally find out the big secret that no one ever told me all those years and that I wish I'd known. I was very excited. And I came out with going, wait, where is it? What happened? I don't get it. What's the thing? There was nothing new, nothing that would have worked for me, nothing new. And I was very disheartened, I have to be honest. But I'm not one to give up. So I started the journey anyway. And the deepest insights that I have gotten on this journey have come through working with you gals, working with the women who come into my world, and my own experience. I've learned over time what works, what doesn't work, new ways of helping solve old problems. And it's become so beautiful that I can hardly believe it, if you want the truth. And women tell me all the time, wow, Becca, that's completely different. I hadn't heard of it that way before, and I hadn't thought of it that way before. Listen, this isn't rocket science, but it is a very specific type of problem. And I've lived it my whole life. And I tell you right now, I'm glad I lived it my whole life. Painful as it was, it's now worthwhile. At the time, I just thought I was being badly punished in this life because my life had been so painful. Now I know the reason behind it. I'm able to see things differently than someone who hasn't experienced this problem can see. I can see clearly what others can't see because I've been there. That's why on the show, I like to warn you about certain paths that you might come across. If somebody ever tries to sell you moderation, run for the hills. If you have a drinking problem, my dear, you can't moderate. That's a different snippet. I've definitely talked about it here. But that's just one example of somebody who doesn't know what it's like going out in the world and teaching. Actually putting out in the world, come over here and I'll teach you how to control your drinking. That is not only a lie, it's very dangerous. And there are others like that. So I want you to know that the solutions that I teach come through trial, error, experience, practice, and a lot of suffering. Am I going to teach all that tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern? You bet I'm not. But I am going to give you insights on most of what I've mentioned here today. And I'm going to show you how you actually can stop drinking for the last time the minute you're ready. Now, I hope you heard that. I am not saying to you, come to the class at 7 p.m. and quit drinking today. You can if you want. Hell, I'm not going to stop you. I'm all for that. But if you're not ready, it won't happen anyway. But the day you're ready, you're going to need to know how to do it. And by the way, that's another class I teach. How to know when you're ready, and even more powerful than that, how to get ready. How to make sure you are ready. How to decide, damn it, I'm ready. We'll talk about that one very soon. But tonight, it's simply going to be how to make sure you don't have to do this again and again and again. There are several pieces to this puzzle you need to have in place so you know what to look for and you're not tiptoeing down the proverbial garden path again and again and again. That is just way too painful. If there's one thing I've learned about this, gals, it's that this is a very specific and unique type of problem, and most people don't understand it. They try to help, but unless you've been there, you cannot understand it. And unless you've been in the solution, you can't understand that either. That is why we need guidance. That is why we try hundreds or even thousands of times to quit drinking, because we do not understand the problem. And we can't understand the problem when we're inside the problem. I need to repeat that. We cannot understand this problem or its solution when we're inside of it, because we have the voice of alcohol inside vying for attention. And that means we're being lied to. Gals, join me tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for How to Quit Drinking for the Last Time. Live on Zoom, a quick 1-hour class. Grab a pen and expect to get some key information that will change the playing field for you once and for all when you are finally ready. The link to register is in the show notes, and if you're not all techie, just send me an email at Becca@BeccaJacobson.com, and I'll send you the link to sign up. See you later. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back next time so I can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.